Right, let me just pop onto the channel and make sure that the stream is running. But we have chat at last. Oh, it's a miracle. Right. Right. Yeah, we should be live now. Cool. We can switch off the PC. We don't have that noise in the background. And we should be all live. So, welcome back. We now have anchor number 1 and anchor number 2. And now the final thing on this one, on the first stage, remember we are still on the first stage, is now for the missile silo. Missile silo, sorry. Which is on the B sprue. And in fact, I can already see it. And let's move our gun turret over to here as well. Keep things nice and organized. So I'm just going to cut this one open with our incredibly sharp Despire limited edition ones. YouTube video coming soon on that, so be sure to check that out. I haven't actually uploaded the video, I haven't edited it yet, hence why you haven't seen it yet, but you'll see it after, probably in about a couple of days. Editing takes a while. Do you actually need to check? This is B14, isn't it? Yeah, B14. Cool. So, and I'm just trimming this off the sprue. Not going too close, because obviously we don't want to cut in too close and it having any issues. Now we've cut that off, we can go and just trim off some of this plastic. Now this will probably be very visible, so what we're going to do is we're probably going to sand it down afterwards, like so. And the same for this one. Just going to use the back of the scalpel just to remove any additional before we sand it. I might actually try and go in with the nippers here and see if we can just nip a little bit off like that. Much better. And again, we're going to place it down and we're just going to use the scalpel and just try and get some extras off. Like so. We're going to go in with our 1800 here. Just gently sand down that side. Again, I don't want to go any more than 1800. Oh, sorry, any lower. So still want it to be very, very smooth. But we might actually have to, just to get that extra little bit off. But as you can see, that's done most of the job for us. It's not perfectly smooth. I'm just going to go back at it with this. I'll go back in like this. Much better. And then we'll just smooth that out with a 4000. Once that's painted, that should look really, really good. And then we'll go for the same on this one. There's a little bit more on this one, so I might just go back at it with this. Like so. And again, we'll just go with it, at it with a bit of sandpaper. In this case, we're using sanding sticks. And just smoothing that down. Like so. And then we'll go back onto the 4000 and make that lovely and smooth now. Like that. So you can see that's nice and smooth. It's still a little bit, you can see where the plastic has been, but it is actually really, really, really smooth. So, right. There are actually 2 photo etched parts to put on this as well. On here, so let's get those out. We need number 32, both of them. So as you can see here, we have 2 number 32s. So we'll probably use the scalpel for this, and 32 is these ones. There's actually quite a few 32s. But we're only focused on 2 for now. Well, that went flying, so I think we've lost that one. But we'll be careful for the next one, and we'll try and find the other one. This one, oh, yep, there's 2. Cool. So we'll just make sure these are nice, clean, and tidied up. Yeah, there's a little bit. Yeah, that's perfect. And then we'll get the other one as well. Like so. Right, this is where we bring out our special grippy tool. So the camera's mounted up to a vise. Maybe not the best way of doing it, but it's mounted up to a vise. But we have a little grippy thing here that will then allow us to make sure that this is nice and flat. So we'll do the first one here. Just grab a little bit of glue. We don't want too much glue here. Just want a very, very little bit, because we're only going to be putting a little thing on there. And we'll just let that absorb a little bit before. Oh, he's dropped it. Just putting it on there. We'll just move that around so it's centre. Like so. And then we'll just let that set for a couple of seconds. Then we'll do the same for the other one. Again, if you're just tuning in, welcome to the stream. We are building a model warship. It's the first one I've ever built. So yeah, welcome. We've let that set, so now we can just tilt it the other way. Again, ensuring that that is visible on the camera, but also visible to me. It's not going very well if you guys can see it and I can't. Pop a little bit there. Grab this one. That looks about even. That's looking very good. I know that the quality on the camera is not the best. It needs to be straightened out a little bit. Yeah, perfect. Right, now the next bit is to attach the rear deck onto the main deck. So we'll start off with that. Okay, so we're just going to making sure that it doesn't need any filling, doesn't need any sanding. And then what we'll do is we'll see if we can actually get this in a semblance of straightness and matching. Should fit nicely inside like this. And it does, which is good. So what we'll do, we'll get the glue out. We'll only use a small amount. I'm just gonna gently go all the way along. Get a bit more on it, go all the way along. A bit more and go all the way along. Just on one side for now, so we can try and get it mostly secured. Like so. And just hold that in, make it nice and settled. That's all we do, anything else. So the colour of the gun should be a 22. No, maybe it shouldn't be. It doesn't actually say what colour the gun should be, but it should be. It looks like it's the same colour as the side, so we need to be painting that. The H306, 308, which is the Vallejo 990. Cool, we have that. We will be using brush painting with a thinner because I don't have a working airbrush. I do have an airbrush, it's just not very good. Good old Temu Special. We probably don't need as much on there as that. Of course, we will sand this down once it's glued. Right, that should be nicely done on that side, and then we'll just get a nice little bit of glue, not too much, dribbled along this side here, like so. Like that. Cool. Right, and that's basically the entire back deck done. Should be relatively well glued by now. Very flat. We'll just add a bit of glue around here. I will probably put in a little bit of putty. There's a small gap that if we can't fix with glue, will be needed to be used by putty, I think. Again, I'd expect this to be perfectly smooth, no gaps. And so if we're going to use, yeah, this may be my first one, but I still want it to look extraordinarily good. Just let that settle. You can see there's a few gaps towards the back end here that we can probably just putty over for now. That then sand it down, obviously. In fact, that's what we'll do. We'll attach a little bit. I'm using the Vallejo plastic putty. I don't know if it's any good. Again, this is the first model kit I've ever built. I don't really know what I'm doing, but you know, it's what it is. It'd be helpful if I could take the lid off. There we are. Right. Probably have to use the scalpel for this. And let's wipe that off because I don't want this on my brand new, beautiful Display putty that I've got, the limited edition snake. You will see that on the YouTube channel soon. I just haven't uploaded it yet. And if you just give me a moment, I'll grab, oh, big wobble there. Just going to grab a little cotton bud so we can just massage it into the gaps. And the idea behind this is just, again, to fill up any of the gaps that are visible. Again, this is just what was recommended to me by the shopkeeper at Element Games. So I'm assuming this is the stuff I need to use. He was very, very helpful, picked out all of the correct paints for this model. So I trust him completely. I'm probably not applying it very well or correctly, so any issues are probably on my side. I mean, it kind of reminds me of Tipex. There, you can actually see how well that is actually filled in the gaps. And once this gets sanded down, that should look really, really good. So we are just going to wait for that to dry. What we can move on to is the foredeck, which is this one. And for this, we're going to need item number D25. So the D sprue is somewhere. Which one's this one? This is the B sprue. Sprue. Is this one the D? Yeah, this one's D. And then we need, what was it? D25. D25, right here. So again, we'll get our limited edition snake nippers. We'll just focus that in. We'll just do a nice little snip. Pop that there. Pop the sprue here. We can push this to one side now. We don't need it. We'll just go around and we'll just gently do a bit of a clean up before I then get the scalpel out. We'll just use the back of the scalpel this time, just to try and scrape some of that off without cutting it. If that doesn't work, obviously, then just gently scrape it off with the sharp side. And then we'll bring out the tweezers and we just sand that down and make it look nice and neat. But we'll use the 4000 for this one so we don't end up using too much of an abrasive. I'll just gently round that off as well. And we want it to be quite even. Now, I'm hoping that the gun turret will just clip into this, and so we can then have it free moving. If we're going to be lucky for that, I don't know. But we can always hope. I don't really want to do this. By the looks of it, that is not going to be the case. Just wondering if there's a way to increase some friction in there. I reckon if I added a small amount of putty inside, we can then just tighten it up a little bit. Not sure it's supposed to be used like this, but yeah, again, if we can just make that a little bit tighter in there, then maybe the gun turret can still spin without having to be glued. Obviously, we don't want it to spin like in circles, but we want it to be able to spin a little bit. We'll just hope that that works. And obviously, we will actually glue that base bit down as well. That should help it stick. And then we'll get some glue. Okay, not too much. Just a little bit, and we'll just drop that down the sides like this. Cool. Like so. Let me just wait for that to glue itself down. We'll still continuously moving this. Where's my battery? There. There we are. Now that should be perfect. This will allow this bit to move freely without moving the bottom bit. Cool. I like the look of that. Now, what we're going to do here is we are going to try and now glue this onto here. Now, this is where it gets interesting because this doesn't quite line up. So we're going to have to use a lot of putty here, I have a feeling. So I think what we'll do is we'll grip it as best as we can to be in place here. Then we'll go in like this. And then what we'll do is we'll just try and glue this bit down. I hope that that goes into all of the seams. I don't think I've got the ability to do the other side yet, but we really need to get that glued in all the way in here if we're able to. Then I can hold down this bit as well. Oh, like that. There, that should hold it in nicely, and then we'll just hold that for about 5 minutes. Yeah, so for those of you just tuning in, welcome. We are building Type 54 Chinese frigate. It's the first model kit I've ever built, and it's very exciting. Requires a lot of patience. I mean, we've been streaming for a while now, and we're only assembling the main ship. You know, we've done maybe 2-3 steps. Well, we're not even on the second step yet. It's crazy. So much patience. But it's really, really enjoyable, quite calm, quite relaxing, perfect for a weekend after a hard day's work. So, you know, I enjoy having you along with this journey. And the front bit should be nicely joined in. So I'm going to actually take this moment to glue the back down in one straight line like this. That will hopefully sink into all the gaps. Again, we can putty up those lines and just make it nice and perfectly level. And then if we're able to, we can spin this around like this. Dip, dip, dip. And then we'll just go in like this. And again, what we're trying to do here is create a nice seam and allow the glue to go into the gaps and just melt that plastic together, like so. And that should make it nice and level. Hopefully, make it nice and level. You can see there's a bit wrong here, maybe a bit too much glue there. So we'll just wipe some of that off. But still, you know, still should be very nicely together. In fact, that is starting to look very even. Cool. And we'll put a bit of putty on that as well, just to confirm. Actually, we have missed a bit of glue here, so we'll just put that in here. And we'll sand that excess glue down, don't you worry. We don't want too much excess glue. As you can see, it's very shiny. It's very, very obvious. Now, it is already dry. It dries really, really quickly, which is good. And as you can see, the gun turret still just about moves. But it's a bit springy, which is good, because it means it's not, you know, if I exit to the upside down, it's not going to fall off. And that's kind of what we wanted. Well, it's kind of what I wanted anyway. Right, this should be nicely glued. So, what we're going to do now is we're just going to get our putty. We're just going to try and fill in some of those gaps. Once this dries, we can then sand it down. So, this is nice and dry. This is ever so slightly come out. But that's fine. We'll just fill up the gaps with the Valley Hope glue, the putty. And then we'll just go in here, and here, and here. Especially around the front. The front bit, I feel, is where all the gaps are. It's not a perfect flush fit. Yeah, these are all injection molded kits. Yeah, with the rise of 3D printers, especially resin printers, stuff like this becomes a lot easier to print, but very time consuming. You know, my 3D printer for my computer took, you know, nearly 300 hours. It was massive, in fairness. It doesn't have anywhere the level of detail this does. But imagine if I was to print something like this, it would take a very long time. Just gonna cover up the seam. You try not to add any extra where we don't need it, like around this front plate here. But still, we need to make sure that we have a nice coverage, especially around those seams, because what we don't want is any gaps. Because when we come to paint, that's going to be really, really obvious, and that's not what we want. So what we'll do is we'll just gently brush this in. Again, I don't know if this is how you're supposed to do it. It's my first model warship. This is how I'm doing it. And we will, of course, clean out those holes just to make sure that there's none of that showing. And this will, of course, all be sanded down because we want it to be as flat as possible. Just take off any excess with the other side because we don't want to ruin the detail anywhere else. And then we'll go over to the front. Oh, that's very close to the camera there. That's an interesting image and look for you guys. Again, we'll just very nicely clean up on this side as well. Just rub that putty into all of the gaps. Just smooth it out. Because when we come to paint it, we want it to be smooth. And when we come to sand it as well, we don't want to be taking layers and layers off. Because we'll be here all day. Which is fine. I don't have anywhere to be. And maybe you guys don't either. You know, whatever you might be doing. I'm hoping you're having a good weekend. So thank you for checking in and enjoying the stream as well. We'll get another earbud out in a second. Just making sure that these holes are nice and clean in case we have to put anything in there later. We don't want to have to be drilling it back out. So let me go grab some more earbuds. Now, we'll try and make this stream nice and relaxing. So if you're here, you're having a busy weekend and you're here, then welcome. And if you're having quite a chill weekend, then we'll keep it chill. Nice and chill. Again, like I said, this is a very relaxing kind of thing. And we want it to be all nice and chill. And I'll just clean these up because these are brand new and we want them to look really good. And we also need them to be clean for when we pick up other stuff later. So again, we'll just go on the other side and we'll just make sure that's nice and clean, like so. We don't want to ruin the detail. Yeah, the detail is the most important bit about these kits. You know, you want it to look good. And that detail obviously can not always very well represented because these are injection molded and the detail on injection molds is a little bit hit and miss. But we don't want to make it any worse. There. You can see that that's looking quite good now. It's starting to dry and there's no gaps. So what we can now do, we can go back to the back of the ship, which as you can see, we puttied in and just filled out. Instead of using our little sticks, we're going to use a nice soft paper. And P400 will do for now, I reckon. I think that's the maximum. No, we've got an 800. We'll use an 800. And what we're going to do is we're just going to rip a bit off. We're going to get our Despite sanding pads. And we're going to get out the 800 one, which is hopefully this one. It is. And what we're going to do is I'm just going to fold that over, get a bit of tape out. And just try and tape that across. I don't really know how to use these, to be honest with you. Again, I don't know how to do most of this stuff, but we're just here to learn, have fun, like so. Cool. Right, so we're just going to gently go in and just try and remove that excess off. Okay, this is not working the way I was expecting, and I think we'll put the stick back and I'll just use my finger. Again, this is just a nice little learning curve. I'm just gently going, just sand in between the gaps, being sure not to take off any of these notches. We might actually be better off using the sticks that I've bought. Oh, much better, yeah. And then where's the super smooth one? This one. It's not perfect, and there are still some bits that haven't quite fully turned flush, especially around this back right hand corner. I don't know if you can see that on the camera. It's not quite perfect, but it is much better. Then we can go to the front. We'll pull up the 1800 again, and we'll just do a gentle excess sanding with this. Again, the idea is not to take off too much, but just smooth it out a little bit, so when it comes to painting, it's not wonky. Same for the other side. Especially this bit here. Where's that sandpaper gone there? I just want to come up a little bit more here, where there's some excess glue that we don't really want to see when we paint. Like so. Then we'll go back over on the smoother one. Just make sure it's nice and smooth. Make sure there's no roughness. Like so. Cool. That's feeling nice and smooth now. Hopefully it'll be smooth enough for painting. I won't know until I actually come to paint it whether it needs a bit more sanding. We'll just sand it as well. That's feeling nice and smooth. And again, the gun turret still moves, but without actually coming off. So that's good. And there we have it. That is stage 1 and half of 2. The next part is to do all the bottom stuff. So already I can feel this is very, very noticeable seam line. So in the hopes that we don't damage the gun, we're just going to very gently sand and smooth this. Let me just get my chair a bit closer. And we'll pull this up like this. Get some lumbar support. And then we'll just sit back and gently sand. Might actually want to use a little bit of a harsher sandpaper here. Especially for this. This doesn't look like it's actually needed. So we are just going to gently, again, scalpel up, just gently scrape that away. That should be all right. And again, we just come back in. We just want to gently get rid of that seam, because this is going to be very noticeable when it comes to painting, and we don't really want that. Let's go for something a little bit, no, 800. No, let's go for 400. 400. And that should just make it a little bit easier. If you're just tuning in, welcome. Just getting rid of this seam line here. It's a little bit too noticeable. We don't want that on our final build. Like so. So we're going to now go into it, go in at it with a. I just need to raise this one up. Sorry. To protect the gun turret a bit, because the gun turret has obviously been already put on. And we're just going to go in with small circles with a higher grit, just to smooth that out a bit. And then once we've done this one, we'll then go up to another grit and just smooth it out a bit more. And the idea behind this is just we've got to make sure the hull is as smooth as possible. And then we'll go up to a 4000. Hello, welcome to the stream. It's good to have you here. We're just building our model warship. Now we're just sanding this down. It was a little bit rough on the seam. We're just sanding it down with a 4000 just to make sure that it's super smooth. He is very nice now, but he's still a bit rough. Feeling nice and smooth now. Now what we're going to do is we've just done a 4000. So let's see if we have a 12,000. This will make it ultra smooth. That's much smoother. Obviously, the seam is still visible to us, but once that's painted, that seam should no longer be visible. In fact, we're just going to use the 12,000, just go over a little bit over here as well. Just to finalise smoothing out those gaps, especially here. We might just want to put a bit more putty there. We'll see how noticeable it is at the end. I have a feeling that the main tower is going to go there, so that one doesn't really matter too much. See, the gun turret still in use. Right, so now the next bit is we need to get all of the canards on. So this one's going to be a bit more interesting and a bit more involved. And so we are actually going to get our little gripper out. So this is now dry. Put that over there. And for this one, we're actually going to use that gun turret to our advantage here. Gently rest it like this. And number one we need to start off with is the B screw, which I believe is this one. It is. Cool. Let's get this one out. We are still only on the second stage. This is not a marathon, so it's not a sprint, this is a marathon. Takes a very long time. Move these out of our way again. We don't need these at the moment. And we'll get our spy nippers out. Now, let's start off with B21 and B22. Right, we've got the gun facing, the boat facing that way, so we'll get B21 out first, and B21 is this one here. So we're just going to go not too close, we're just going to snip that one off, and same for this one. Now that did just bend, I didn't snip that very well. You can actually see that that has almost come off. We will fix that when we glue it. Which we'll have to be extra careful when we use this to get rid of the excess. Extra careful that we don't end up snapping the entire thing in half fully. Now, unfortunately, the light is a little bit too far over. Let's move that a bit closer so I can see what I'm doing. So I might actually have to do some more of the shaping when it's on the body because of that weakness that I've now put into it. Yeah, I'm very worried now that I'm not going to accidentally rip it in half. Obviously we don't want that. Well, I might just gently sand it at an angle like this. Yeah, unfortunately I think I've made it a bit too weak now for it to be able to be sustained. I'll probably use the back of the scalpel for this though. And we might just have to do a bit more sanding once it's glued and a bit more secure. But we do need to cut the other side off as well. In fact, that one came off a lot smoother. Like so. And again, we'll use the back of the scalpel just to scrape off any excess. So it's not perfect, but obviously I did damage it. so we just got to be a bit more careful. Like that. And we'll just come back at this one a little bit. We'll probably putty this one because I've damaged it too much. Gently smooth it over with a bit of putty later. Okay. Now, I think this is universal on what side it goes on. So what I'm actually going to do, gently slide a bit of the cement inside, okay, just to reinforce that bend and the break. I'm going to have to put a bit more than that in there. Like that. We'll put the inside as the bad side. There we are. And then what we'll do is we'll go on this side and we'll just pop that in at the top. Pop that in at the bottom. Again, I should probably have used a thinner paint. Sorry, a thinner glue. This was what was recommended to me. And I maybe wasn't very precise or very clear with what I asked for. But as you can see, it's working very well. And in fact, that should actually hide up that bend very well. So we'll let that one try. We'll just turn it around a little bit, so it's a little bit more easy to work on both sides. Actually see that that's gone on very well. And then we'll get the next one out, and this time we'll be even more careful not to bend it. If you're just tuning in, welcome to the stream. Very relaxed weekend stream on model warship building. This is the Type 54A FFG PLA Navy frigate. I think it's a frigate. It might be a destroyer. The FFG is the FFG version, which suggests to me that it's a frigate. I may be incorrect. There's probably some information about the ship on the back of the box that I haven't read. I mean, it is in Chinese, so unfortunately, I can't read Chinese yet. Now you may ask, why did I pick this one? Well, I really like the Type 55 Renhai destroyer. It's probably one of my favourite ships at the moment. Modern warships, anyway. I know it's very similar to quite a few. But the Type 55 Renhai is actually the world's second most powerful warship in the world, only behind the USS Gerald R. Ford, the aircraft carrier, which is impressive. Now, obviously, that's just a raw equipment. It doesn't take into consideration, naval training, naval doctrine. Countries like the UK especially have many, many, many years experience when it comes to naval combat, which unfortunately for China, they just lack. China's never been a naval superpower. Although I would relatively argue when you have a ship like the Type 55 Renhai, you don't really need it. It really is a severely powerful, severely capable ship. It's very, very impressive. In fact, my next PC build will be inside a 3D printed case in, well, the idea behind it is to build it as a Type 55 Renhai. My current one is a 1942 HMS Illustrious. The next one will be a Chinese Type 55 Renhai. Should make it a little bit easier to 3D model and 3D print as well, and there should be a lot more space inside to put the components. Currently, the Illustrious that I've built is not quite big enough, even at a scale of 1 to 150. And unfortunately, the power supply unit is not sitting inside of the case or inside of the warship. I will just gently undo the hook on the gun. Just confirm that it's in the right place above and below. Yeah, look at that. Looking very good. Obviously, we'll sand out some of this stuff later. Yeah, it's still drying. But then we'll get the rest of the canards on now. The next one is, are there any more on B? No, so the next one's on E, E12 and E11. I might actually not hook this on the gun. I'll try and hook it onto the side of the ship because I don't want to snap the gun off for obvious reasons. So we'll get E12 out. Where's E? Oh, E's the one with all the little bits. It's going to be this one. And we're looking for E12. No, that one's E11, there's E12, okay. Oh, that's the light going for a button. Yep. Let's get those snippers. And then we are looking for E12, which is this one here. Just going to gently grab that with our fingers where we make a nice clean slip. We need to do the same for the other sprue. And that is on this side right here, E12. Like that. Now what we can do is we can grab our we'll just gently cut off the additional bit, like so. We can sand that up a little bit, make it a bit neater. A minute. There we go. Now we're obviously going to want to sand that. So we'll get the bit that needs sanding. Again, we'll go back onto the 1800. I don't want to take too much off. Just gently round that out a little bit. Go back onto the 4000. Just finish from. Perfect. And what we're going to do is we're going to grab the tweezers. We're going to hook it into the tweezers like so. And then find the little icon that it needs to be on. And we'll just grab a bit of glue. Like that. Get the tweezers. Look over, because my left hand is not as good as the right. There we are. And we'll just go and reinforce that with a bit more glue on both sides, like so. That's looking good, and then we'll just do the same for this one. So we'll grab it with the tweezers. Probably start off using the right hand, to be honest. Maybe you go a bit easier. Did we sand this one? I think we did, yeah. I'll just go at it again, just in case. Like so. Then we'll just grab the tweezers. We'll do a small dab of glue, only a small one. Like so. Tweezer to the other hand and just drop that in. Like so. And again, we'll guide it with a bit of glue on both sides, like so. That'll just help reinforce it a little bit. Cool. Now, while that's drying, we can start on the next one, which is E11. E11 is here. So again, we'll do the same thing. Very gentle snip. Then we'll go back over to the next one. E11. Very gentle there, pop that back over there. I'm going to grab this and we're just going to go snip again. And we're just going to get the extra bits off around here. Ooh, if it doesn't jump around too much. There we are, that's perfect. I'm just going to clean this up a little bit because there's lots of mess around here. Do the same for this one. So like so. Cool. Now I'm just going to sand this up a little bit. Again, on the 1800 followed by the 4000 for both ones. 4000 after the 1800, of course. Right. Now this side should be nearly finished drying, so what we can do, we can grab it like this. We'll switch the boat around so it's more on the other side. What we'll have to do is we'll have to unhook this side and hook on this side, like so. Tilt that over a bit more equal. Just going to gently attach a bit of glue onto the base, like so, and gently just attach that there. And again, we're just going to pop a bit of glue on both sides, trying not to move it too much. We'll try not to move it back like this. We need to ensure it's set straight again. There we are. That should be perfect. Yeah, that is perfect to me. Because we moved it around a little bit, I'm just going to touch a little bit more at the back. Because I've missed that bit. Maybe a little bit of the front as well. And that should nicely stretch it out. What we can do is we can have a bit of putty around that as well if we want to reinforce it after. And then we'll get the next one out. Just this one. Again, we'll just gently glue. Just gently place in the place it's supposed to go in. Just there. Cool. And then we should gently attach some glue this time, very gently. Go all the way around. And then we just check that that's in line. Yep. And the next one is in line. Cool. Straighten that out a bit. Perfect. If you're tuning in, welcome to the stream. It's good to have you along. Right, now the next bit is interesting. We're going to have to get the D screw out, and this will be for the propellers. So arguably a very important part. Now, by the looks of it, we should start with one side. So as we've got this side tilted towards us, we'll start off with this one. And I think we're going to want to get D39 open first. So D39, where is D39? It's going to be one of these bits, and it's this one here. So we'll just gently cut this off, like so. And then we'll cut off the other side as well, like so. Going to get the tweezers up. Sorry, the scalpel out. We're just going to gently take off any extra, which is quite a bit, to be honest. I might have to put this down and do it so I don't cut my finger off. The wife would not be very happy if we end up in A&E this evening because I've cut off my finger. Just gently slide that back, just removing that extra seam And same for the back one here. We're going to use the back of the scalpel for this, just because it gently takes off a bit of the plastic without taking off too much. Ultimately, obviously, we're going to be sanding it, so that will be taken off the most. So more sand. We're going to use another 1800. So we don't want to take too much off here, but we need to take enough that it becomes smooth. But that also goes to the entire injection mold seam around the circular bit, because there is a bit of a seam all the way up. And then we'll just finalize it with a 4000. Like so. Now this is number 39. Which one is 39? This is going to be this side. And then we need the longer bit going in here, so we can place that in. Should hopefully fit in. Well, that's a bit concerning. I believe this is supposed to go all the way in. Now I'm trying to be very careful not to break this here. Okay, it doesn't look like it's going to go in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab some 400 grit, and I'm just going to sand off and taper the ends here. Sometimes the injection molds don't quite line up. Sanding this in, hopefully we can just get this small enough that we can then get this into the gap. I'll try that again. Again, a longer bit facing down the length of the ship. Yeah, I can feel one of them's gone in. Right, so that's one in. We just got to get the rest of this side in. So we might want to do a little bit more sanding, just to ensure that goes in nice and smoothly. So let's try that, shall we? No, it was this side, wasn't it? Yeah. Yeah, it's ever so slightly, I think, a bit too big. Where's my sanding sticks? We'll get a nice rough one for this. Go a nice 80, just to take off a bit more. Really, because we're going to glue it. This is more of a guiding hole, which will make it easier for gluing. So we just really need it just to go in, to be honest. We will then go to a lighter one. Where is it gone? Here. No, that's the one I've just put down. I guess we're using the 4000. It's not going to do much though. We'll just round it out a bit, I guess. There we are. We can just use this 400 just to really make it smooth. Now that should fit. I think I've just sanded the wrong one though, which is probably not very helpful. No, that's gone in, that's gone in, they're both gone in. Right, we'll attach a little bit of glue. One there, and underneath as well. Make that nice and glued. Cool. Right, now we need to get D2 out, and this D2, is it D2? Yes, it is D2. D2 is the propeller screw, so we need to be very careful. It's very long, very thin. The last thing we need is to snap this. There'll be no repairing that one. We'll be 3D printing another one. And my 3D printer is not very good at doing small parts like this. So, taking extra care on this one. So we're just going to slice off a bit more of that. And try and slice a bit more of this off. Before we get loose with the scalpel. So we're just going to gently slice off here. Rotate it a little bit and just keep slicing until we know that we've got it all. And then we'll go back to the main body of the screw, and then we'll just take off the extra plastic that was there as well, like so. So what we're going to do is we're going to grab the 1800 and just smooth this out. Because again, we need it to be nice and smooth because this can be visible. Oh, but it has gone flying. And the problem is, I don't know where it went. I have to be very careful. I don't accidentally squish it when standing up. Oh, and I found it. And it's still in one piece. Very careful, because when we paint this, we don't want it to be a visible blob. Okay, and that's really important. It's the presentation at the end, but you need to do the hard work when you're building it. Just sand that nicely. Make sure we're not putting too much stress on any additional components. This, I'm just going to use the back of the. I might actually use the sharp bit here just to file that down a bit. Go back out on the 1800, then the 4000. Effectively just roll this down, and then we'll just smooth out this bit as well. Now, this I believe we need to thread through until we can get it to hook and push through. Now, unfortunately, I think that this hole is a bit too small. Certainly feels that way. So what we're going to do is we're going to get our tweezers out. We might just make this hole a little bit bigger. This is a bit too finicky of a part to sit there and try and make the actual bit that goes in a bit bigger. Oh, sorry, a bit smaller, so we'll just make the hole a bit bigger instead. And that should go in nicely. Yep, let's glue that in. Just going to literally drop some glue around it and on it. I probably shouldn't have put some on it. I kind of messed up there, but it's okay. Again, we'll putty all around it to remove any gaps. Because on the main ship, you wouldn't have any gaps. And we've actually dropped a bit of plastic on here, so we'll get rid of that before we get stuck on with the glue. And that's looking really, really good. We'll make sure that we're not bending the gun. No, the gun looks all good. Now, the next bit is the propeller, the D36. So, D36, which is this one here. Now, we've got to be very careful here as well. We'll actually go at this on a slightly different way, like that. And this will just ensure that we don't end up snapping any of the propeller blades off. Just got to go very carefully. This is going to be very, very difficult to sand. So we're going to actually pull out the tweezers and sand it with the tweezers. We'll get back out onto the 1800 and we're just going to vary. Oh no, it's flown away again. We're actually going to get a slightly rougher one. We're probably going to go for a 600 for this one. We need to ensure that this is very well sanded, very smooth. Propeller's not very good, it's not very smooth. As you can see, it's bouncing everywhere. The tweezers are not very good at gripping with my shaky hands. So I just use my hands instead. That's looking better. And then where's the other one? The other one's here. We're just going to very gently on all sides just smooth that around. That's looking really, really good. Now, I would be inclined to paint this before I put it in. And that's exactly what I'm going to do. So what I'm actually going to do is try and get this so it can fit inside. And then we're going to sit there and try and paint it. Now I believe that this is the only bit of gold that we are going to need. Gold paint, so I'm happy to get that out early. Yep, that'll work. We'll just check the instructions. H9, yeah, it's the only bit of H9 that we're going to need. So what we're going to do is we're going to move the warship away. And we're going to get this out. And now we've got here a surface primer, so we're going to be using this. In fact, I would be inclined to maybe do both of them at the same time, and I think that's what we'll do. So let's get the other one out and off here first. The thing is, actually, we only have one of these, so no, we will just do this first. So what we're going to do is get the primer ready. Make sure it's well shaken up. Just going to do a test spray. Perfect. So let's move this into a point where the camera can see it. Go from above. Turn it around. Make sure it's fully covered from all angles. Obviously try not to get any onto the foam itself. Maybe tilt it up a little bit like this. Tilt up the camera as well so you can see more of the desk. Like so. I don't think that's gone on very evenly. So I'm actually I'm just going to do this. And what that should do is hopefully attach enough air to move the bits over to where they need to go. And what we should end up with a relatively well even coated propeller. That has not actually happened the way I was expecting. I don't think I shook it for very long enough. That's much better. That's a much even coater. Still a little bit not quite right, but it's much more even. So what we're going to do is we're actually just going to jam this one in here, and we'll get the other one prepared. It's going to take a while to dry, and then we can focus on the other side of the propeller. So let's get this bit out. We'll get the 600 out, and we'll just go along here and here and on the top as well. Get the propeller looking nice and good. And let it down the side. The other side's actually come off very, very clean. Just this side. Back onto the top one, like so. Right, let's get another one of those sticks. We'll just cut that off. Just a little bit more. Again, I'm sure you can buy things for this, but at the same time, if we have the ability to make some stuff, then we'll make some stuff. And this one should go a bit better this time. Much better coating. Just going to do very thin, very even coats. That's looking miles better. And again, we'll stick this in here. And we'll put this out of the way so it can dry. We can get this, we'll put this away. And we can put the lid back on this. Very smelly, very smelly. A very strong scent to it because it is obviously an aerosol in a relatively well ventilated area. So let's go back to the ship itself. See, the gun turret is still moving, still perfect, good. I'm trying to think of a way where I can rest this without it actually damaging it. And let's try and use tape. Oh, that's miles better. Yeah, because that keeps the gun out. Right, cool. So now we need to get this one on, which is D38. So we'll go back up to this one. As you can see, it's here. We'll just try and snip this bit off. And then on here as well. Now imagine we're going to have the same issue here. So we are going to obviously sand the edges down as well. Where's my 600s here? Just really going to take off that extra bit of plastic. Make it nice and smooth. I might actually want to do some more of this with the scalpel first. Like so. And the same for up here. Like so. Just tuning in though, welcome to the stream. We are building the Type 054A FFG PLA Navy destroyer or frigate. I haven't worked out which one it is yet. I believe that it's a frigate based on its styling, its weaponry, but I may be wrong. And if I am wrong, please mention in the comments. Sand that down nicely, and we'll also sand down these bits as well. Very important, so it actually goes into the gaps. But we'll be very careful. We don't want to break them off. Like so. Cool, and we'll do the top bit as well, because we're just going to need to make these a bit smaller than the actual gaps. If you're just tuning in, welcome. Building model warships today. This will be a new series on the channel because it's going to take a very long time. We've been streaming for, well, nearly 2 hours, including the time we streamed on Twitch. And as you can see, it's taken a very, very long time. Then we'll go over a 4000 grit, and then we'll just gently smooth that out, like so. This isn't really doing much. I think we should go back to the 1800 first, and just gently get any excess off. It's already quite smooth. And again, we'll just sand this bit down so it actually goes into the holes a bit better. So again, same as before, we're going to get the longer bit in here. That one fits in nicely. Can we get the other one in without sanding? Yep, we can. All the way down, maybe? Yep, all the way down. Look at that. So we'll attach some more glue. We're using the Tamiya cement again. Boom, 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 boom. And we're just going to go on the inside as well. Again, we will putty fill this eventually, just to get this a bit neater. Let's see how our propellers are going. They don't seem to be dry quite yet, but the coating's looking very even. Oh, that's just gone all the way down. So that's nearly ready to be painted, which is what we want. Now we need to get this other propeller screw out. So we'll have to be very careful because we don't want to snap it. And that is D1. So let's cut that one out. Look at our snake display nippers out again. And we'll just go really, really close and gently cut without too much force. Oh, he says as he drops it, not the steadiest of hands. Again, we're just going to want to make sure this is very well supported, so no external pressure snaps it like that. Perfect. We'll put this away. We should be done with this side now for a bit, while we try and sand and cut this bit off. So we're just going to do another extra snip. Then we're going to get out our lovely scalpel. Again, display always upside down. I always show it to the camera upside down. And then we're just going to gently cut this extra bit off with the scalpel before then sanding it. Again, we have to be really, really careful because we don't want to snap this. So again, we're going to use the cutting board here to keep everything nice and level, everything nice and flat. We're going to use the back of the scalpel, take off any extra that we don't need. That's sorted that one out, and now we just got to sort this one out. I might try and do this up in the air, if I can. If not, it doesn't seem to be working. We'll use an 80 grip. This will be nice and rough and get rid of any additional plastic, like so. Very rough. Took that off and almost immediately. Then we use the back of the scalpel again, just to gently try and scrape some of that off. We might use the front again, just in case we need the extra sharpness. There's quite a lot of plastic to remove here, but we've got to be so careful not to snap the extended rod. Got to be very, very careful. Who's just tuning in though? Welcome to the stream. It's good to have you here on a Saturday afternoon for us. You know, if for you, it could be anywhere. And I hope you're having a good day wherever you are. Just gently sand that up with this. Yeah, that's much better. Now we can go for the, not the 1800. I think we should go for the 600 this time. And then we'll just sand this bit down like so. Again, taking very extra care to not damage this too much. There, make that very, very neat, very, very tidy. Then we'll go to the 1800, smooth it out. Like so. Very, very nice. And then we'll go to the 4000 and just finalize that, make it nice and smooth. Again, we will putty this. So we'll do the same as before. We'll just make the hole bigger to begin with, rather than waiting and hoping. That should be good. And we'll just slide this through, like so. Put that in the hole. I have to make the hole even bigger for this one. Nope, it's clipped in perfectly. Cool. And then we'll just do the same with the glue and just go on either side, like so. Add a bit more. Then we'll just let that sit, and that should make everything neatly glue in together. Now, let's have a look and see how these are doing. I'm hoping that these will be nice and dry now. Certainly feels that way, which is exactly what we want. So what we'll do is painting time. Now we're only going to be painting this a little bit for now, because obviously this is a very little part. In fact, actually, before we do that, we are probably going to want to attach the last of these and then prime this. Would probably be the smart idea. So let's get the D-sprue back out and then just do the last part of this, D34 and D33. Effectively, what we don't want to do is put the propellers on and then end up painting over them. So it's these ones here, D34 and D33. So we have a look at the picture. D33 is on this side, so let's get that one out first. Gentle snip, very gentle, and same for this side. Oh, we might as well cut the other one out while we're here. Again, very gentle. Very gentle. Like so. So we'll start off with the 33. Just to ensure that this is all looking good. We'll use the back of the scalpel just to smooth that out. And then same for the top here. Just very gently slice it. And scale it off like that. Now this one should be long angle this way. We are actually just going to sand that. It's still a little bit rough. So we'll get the 1800 out and we'll just go across the top like so. So we'll just make it nice and smooth. And attach into there. I don't feel like that's the right side. I feel like we should actually switch these around. Because that looks better that way. It angles out rather than inwards, and I do believe it's supposed to angle inwards. I may be wrong, but I'm taking the executive decision to do it that way. I'm going to use a 600 here. This is quite a rough one. And to an 1800. And then down to a 4000, just to smooth that out a little bit like that. And then I'm just going to use the back of the scalpel on this one just to gently slice it off without removing too much plastic, and we're going to stick that one in. I have just snapped that bit of plastic. Okay, well that's not very good, is it? Turns out that the angle of the hole that this clips into was not straight, and I've just bent it. So we're just going to very quickly glue that. Like so. And of course we will sand that down before we spray it once it's dry. But we're just going to make sure that these are in line correctly. Like so. Now, we need to go back to this side. So we're going to get a nice, is this 400? Yeah, nice 400 grit. And we're just going to go over this. We're just going to get rid of that extra bit of glue that we've put on. We might actually want to use 600 for this one. I don't want to mark it too much. But basically what we're doing is we're just getting rid of excess glue, because I'm not the steadiest of hands, and we've got a bit too much additional glue everywhere. So again, these things happen, and that's okay. It's okay to make a little mistake. And I would say it's better to put a bit too much than not enough. We're just going to try and scrape off some of this excess. Like so. We'll try and do that on all sides. Again, we have plenty of sandpaper and plenty of time. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do this. Excellent. We'll have to go around here, I think, with an actual piece of sandpaper. I don't think we're going to be able to use a stick for that one, unfortunately. But we can do these ones with it. Be almost tempted to go from a 600 maybe to the 400 for a little bit, because some of this is very, very thickly put on. Actually, that wasn't quite dry. Yeah, some of these haven't quite dried much, so I've just got to be a bit more careful. So let's go back to the 600. We'll do this side now. If you're just tuning in, welcome to the stream. I hope you're enjoying yourselves. Very relaxing Saturday afternoon for me, and hopefully not too far off for you, or at least relaxing no matter what time of day it is for you. We're just sanding off some extra glue. So when we come to painting, it'll be all nice and smooth. We'll go back onto the... I don't really want to go 80. I probably want to go for a nice... maybe 200 even. 180. 180 I think would be perfect. Oh, that's perfect. Look at that. Taking off in just the right amount. I'm going under this. Again, being very careful not to accidentally knock any of these off, which would be horrifying. Again, any breakages, we don't have a spare kit. I probably should have bought 2 of these. But if you prepare to fail, then you will of course fail. But if you prepare to win, then you'll win. I'm just going to try and get the best angle for you guys to see. We'll just go back on this side. And we'll go nicely like this. Right, now we go up to the 1800 and just help smooth all of that sanding out. Yep, and then we'll go over to a 4000 and we'll just extra smooth that out again. Again, it's not perfect. I'm not sure I have the ability to make it perfect when I don't really know what I'm doing. I'm just doing my best. And it will look good. especially once it's painted. It's going to look really, really good. So we'll just sand this one out, like so. Make sure it's super, super smooth, especially that little slice there. Gun still in perfect condition, still able to move. Cool, and now we need to go on to the propeller part, because that's still very, very rough. So we're going to go back over to the 600. I'm just going to go around here like this. I don't want to go any more than a 600 for now on this part. So I think that the 600 should be enough. Okay, for this bit here, we're probably going to want to go for something like the 180, just to take a bit extra off. We have quite a lot here. Yeah, take a nice bit off there. And then we'll probably go up in the middle here. Again, being careful not to accidentally snap anything off. We're still trying to make sure that we get enough that it doesn't look bad. So what we'll do is we'll come in like this. Oh, we have just nudged them a little bit, so let's get them back to being straight. Like so. Come back on this side. I don't know if you can see, because I can. We have a bit here where there's a little bit of a gap. So, very quickly, what we can do is we're just going to add a bit of putty into there. Means we will have to, of course, sand it again. But that's okay. Again, we're here to take our time and make the best looking ship. We might not even need to sand it. Depends how well I can get it in. I'm trying to treat this like a poly filler, really, and I think I've just done a very good job of that. The top bit doesn't have a gap. There's still a little bit more, so we'll just add a little bit more here. And we'll just poly filler it along. And we'll just go all the way along. Like so. We'll go in one direction and sweep, and that looks infinitely better. Just go to the excess that we put on, and we'll look on the other side, and I think that there's a bit of a gap here as well, so we'll just do that as well. There, and that should have filled up the gap very well and very evenly, because ultimately we need it to all be even. This is a ship after all. If the ship's not even, then it's not going to float. It's not going to sail in a straight line. Cool. And we'll just check on this side, and there's no gaps. Cool. This needs to be up a little bit more, and then we'll probably want to add a little bit of this filler under this bit here. There's a little bit of a gap, and again, we don't want gaps. We don't want to put too much, because we still want a gap underneath it, because the ship wouldn't have a perfect, you know, undercarriage. There's going to be gaps because this is supposed to stick out the water. So we're just going to fill in that little bit there. And we'll go around just to ensure that it's all filled in, and we'll just wipe off the excess with a bit of tissue, like so. And that should fill in the gap without it looking too obvious, hopefully. Okay, I may have worked off a bit too much there, but you know, we're here to try our best. And a mistake, you know, mistakes happen. As long as we can fix them, no harm done. Let's go back out onto the 600. Just gently sand around this bit again and ensure that there's no additional glue. That's looking really good. We'll go back up the middle. Being very careful to avoid hitting that bit, and then we'll go on the outside here. That's looking really, really good now. And then we'll come on the inside and just gently sand underneath it, being very careful not to hit this long barrel of the screw. We'll have to go on the other side and sort that bit out as well. For now, we're just focusing on this side. We're going at 600, try and get quite a bit of plastic off, and then we'll go at a gentler softness, just to make sure that we don't take too much plastic off, but then we smooth it out. I'm just going to put the lid back onto the putty. So you can see here we have quite a lot of additional glue, especially around here. So the aim here is just to sand that off. I'm very careful not to knock the gun off at the back there. Just to sand that additional bit off and make it a bit smoother. Because when we come to painting, something like that, we'll use a 400 for this. If it ever focuses. There we are. You know, the ultimate goal is when we come to painting, it needs to all be smooth. Because if it's not smooth, then it's going to look very, very bad. And this is although this is our first model build, we obviously want it to be good. But I've never built one before, so this is certainly a learning curve. And it's certainly taken longer than I expected it would, but that's fine. I might even want to go to a 180 here, 180, just to really, really get some additional glue off. Now the glue melts the plastic, which is why it deforms quite heavily. We're just got to be careful when we sand it off not to knock any of the parts off. And that's why we're using a high grit here. Try and get as much off as we can before we then smooth it out, starting with the 400 again. Just to smooth it out a little bit. Again, we still want to take the glue off, but we don't want to take too much plastic off. Then we'll move up to the 600. Especially in the middle bit here, can't forget this bit, and the other side as well. The other side's not as bad. I was a bit more careful and deliberate with my glue in there. And then we go to the 1800. This will just gently smooth it all out, make it nice and smooth. Being very, very careful, as always. Be very, very careful. And then we'll finalize that off with a 4000 just to ultimately smooth it all out and make it all very, very nice and neat. Like so. And we just want to aim at the back here. And then down the middle. Really, really getting into all the nitty-gritty parts. Make sure it's nice and smooth. Now we have a very, very nice smooth hull. So what we can do here, we can go to the next stage, which will be on another painting stage. So we're not going to use the frog tape for this because we don't want the frog tape to get covered in muck, and we also don't want our mat to get covered in muck. So let me just give me a moment to get something down to cover it up with. We're actually going to use this wooden board to spray on. So we'll just focus the camera in a little bit, like so. And again, the way to do this is very, very carefully. I'm going to do very, very slim, slow passes, especially at the back here. Try and not to get anywhere else. Well, we need to tilt it and spin it round without getting paint over me and disrupting the paint that's already there. Now, this is a really good stage to do this because this will actually help us see anything that isn't very neatly done. So like this, for example, I can see from this angle that this is not very straight. So I can actually sort this out from here. But the primer is a really good way to see if everything is actually showing. Have we smoothed it out enough? Have we sanded it enough? The answer to that is probably no. Yeah, and I'm prepared for that answer because sometimes I have actually just done the entire side of that, which is very, very silly of Billy of me. I'll gently put it down on this side, put it down this side. Right, and what we can do is we can let that settle. Already I can see that the sanding we did on the putty was maybe not as good as we could have done it, and that will require an additional sanding stage, unfortunately, but that's okay. What I am going to do again is just lift this up over here, and we shall get to propeller painting, because we've now, well, we're getting ready to do all of the stages of this second step. Oh, I have just realized we have actually missed a step on D6 plus 7. Okay, so actually let's do that. We know there's a bit more sanding to do anyway, so I'm not too worried. A bit more sanding and a bit more painting that will be needed done, because once we've sanded, we'll be taking off those extra layers of paint, and we're going to obviously have to sort that out. So we now have these. Let's move this back out of the way, because these are now in the way. In fact, we'll just move this off entirely to a separate stage. We need to focus on this bit. So we'll get the scalpel out here, and then we'll just gently slice off the additional waste. And then we'll use the back here just to take off the extra bit of plastic before then sanding it. Now, I would say I should glue this together first. The instructions aren't very clear on that one, So what I will probably do is I'll glue them together and then try and get them to stick on, which actually makes things a little bit easier for us, because then we can ensure that they are equal. I've just taken off way too much plastic. This way you don't always use a scalpel to do this kind of stuff. So we're going to have to smooth that out massively. So let's glue this and we'll try and sand that out. Yes, I'm aware that I've missed a few bits on this one, like the entire back here. Was it this one? No, it was this one. Whoops. We're actually going to just use the back of the scalpel again and the front. I'm going to just use a bit of everything. All right, let's get these glued together. Very small amount of glue. Drip in there and drip in there. Because then we can place these together. Now, by putting these together, we can then sand all of this down in one item, as one item, which then should give a more even coating. And we'll use the plastic glue here just to really ensure that this is very well put together, because the idea here is that when we come to sanding, we can sand off some of this additional glue we've put down, which should cover up the mistake we made. I'm just going to kind of glue it all, to be honest. And this paint should be dried already. So we can come over here, get this, pop it on here, and then glue and put that on. And then we'll just put a very, very thin layer like this. And this. And at the front. And that's looking really, really good. You can see though already all of this is dry for starters. So let's get off any additional glue. Any additional paint like this. Because we don't want any huge bumps. Most of it is dry though, which is very, very good. And I think what we'll do is wait for this to glue, obviously, but I can see some gaps already. So we're going to wait for that. You can see that the sanding at the back did not maybe go as well as planned. But this gives us an area that we can then focus on for sanding. Sorry, my hands are a bit dirty now. As you can see with the paint wet, and you can see around here as well, some of the sanding could be better. And so we'll go over that as well. The sanding around here went very, very well. Not so much here, but again, we can go over that. And the gun is still looking very good. So while we're waiting for that, we'll go back and we'll paint the propellers. This is the bit I think you're all excited for. It's the bit I'm excited for. It's the painting stage. So we'll bring over our little paint pot. I've already got water in there, just to clean off the brushes. We are going to go for a nice Army Painter Wargamer Insane Detail brush. We are going to get the gold out, which is the Old Gold 7878. Now, on the instruction manual, let's get this zoomed out a little bit. On the instruction manual or the painting reference, it recommends, I can't actually get the gold to show up, 1 second. Gold up at the top, we have suggests Mr. Hobby H99, but we're going to use Vallejo 878 as per recommendation. And the only one this is actually needed for is the propeller. So we have a massive pot just for one propeller. I'm going to make that mixed up. And what we're going to do is we're just going to use a bit of tissue. We're just going to clean out this one here. It's the one I want to use. A bit dusty because it's been on the side for a while. We're going to use a couple of drops of this. We don't need too much, and you'll see why in a minute. We're just going to put 1, 2, maybe 3 drops like that. Not too much, but not too little either. And we're going to use a Vallejo medium thinner, or thinner medium, because that will just help. I'll just put 2 drops of that in. And that will just help remove some of the painting lines. Then we're going to use some Artist Opus, where is it? Paintbrush conditioner, just to help preserve the bristles. This is apparently really, really good. It works like care conditioner, but you use it for your paintbrushes. We're just going to gently make sure that it's nicely all over. Just sniff test just to ensure it's gone on. Oh, that smells so good. Now what we're going to do is we're just going to gently mix our paints, the thinner and the paint itself. Just ensure that it's nicely mixed. Again, the idea behind this is the thinner the paint, the better it will apply. And ideally, what we don't want is painting lines on a propeller. So just make sure it's nice and mixed. We'll remove the excess with a piece of tissue. And then we'll just gently dip in. We'll grab the propeller itself, like so. And we'll just gently paint onto it. Could have probably used a bigger paintbrush for this, but it's okay. Again, this is not a sprint race, it's a marathon. I think maybe we used a bit too much thinner. Maybe 1 drop would have been alright. Not necessarily applying as well as I would want it to. But then I'm quite used to using Citadel paints that go on very, very thickly. Now, a question for you guys in the chat. Why are propellers painted gold? I don't know the answer to that one. I know a lot about ships, but I've never understood why the propellers are gold. I'm assuming it's because they're made out of brass or something, because they don't want it rusting. But I don't know. Maybe stainless steel would be better. But I'm not a shipbuilder, so they obviously know what they're doing. Maybe there's something wrong with stainless steel when it comes to seawater, which is obviously very, very salty. Again, a nice little bit of paint going. Make sure it's not too thick, but also that there's no obvious painting lines. Remember, this may be our first model, but we still want it to look good. Maybe it wasn't the best idea to thin down the paint. It's taken quite a few coats. But we have a very good looking propeller there. Very shiny. Just going to check in the light myself, just to ensure I haven't missed any bits. No, that's actually looking extraordinarily good. So let's get the next one out and we'll do the next one. Now this is the only gold that we will need. The rest of the ship is obviously not going to be gold. It's not very camouflaged if it's gold. But yeah, I remember back in the days when I used to do FX. I say used to. My dad used to build them and I used to paint them. But I remember back in those days, the model kits generally came with paints. That doesn't seem to be the case anymore. Which is why the Element Games staff in the London shop had to help me find the right paints. Very, very helpful they were. I'm very appreciative of their help. They put together a little starter bundle for me and just helped me, get all the things I needed for my first ever build. Yeah, looking quite good. On the side bits here like this, just ensure that it's all the way gone round like so. Yeah, that's looking really good. I'll see if I can show the camera again. Very good. Oh, I have just missed a bit though. Just going to look in the light. And a bit on the bottom there as well. And that is looking very good. So we'll just get off all the extra additional paint in the water pot. Like so. Now we shouldn't need an extra coat. So we'll move the water pot away and we'll move the paint away and we'll just have to sacrifice that last bit of paint, gold paint. Very nice gold paint though, very sparkly. And we'll just move this over here. We have just spilled water everywhere. Never mind. And again, we'll get our conditioner out and we'll just give the brush a nice conditioning. Make it nice and clean. And nice and conditioned, nice and soft for future use. Cool. Then we can put this back in the prism holder. Keep that nice and protected. Right, we can move this out of the way now because obviously we need this to dry, but without accidentally knocking it. And then we can bring the hull all the way back. Now, This should be nice and dry now, but we can see that we have got a few gaps. So let's get the putty out and we'll fill this gap in right here. And let's bring the camera a bit closer. That's as low as I can get it. And what we'll do is we'll just pop some in here. And then we'll get another little one of these, and then we're just going to gently rub that in and around. So basically what we want to do is we want to smooth in that gap. Again, we don't want any little gaps in here. We just want it all to be smoothed out. I feel maybe we shouldn't use this and we should use a brush. So I'm going to use this, I think. This might be better. Let's add a bit more. We probably shouldn't have missed this stage. I just wasn't clearly paying attention. Using a paintbrush is way better. I don't know why I didn't use a paintbrush to begin with. We probably wouldn't have ended up needing to sand all of this as much. Still require sanding on this side, of course, but on the other sides, like especially around here, you can see that that's going to require a lot more additional sanding. To be honest, another layer of primer would probably sort that out. But for now, I think we'll just try and sand it. So I think what we'll use this time, let's use a 400 again. We're angling it like this. And what we're going to do is we're just going to go in, just going to try and sand this bit down. Also sand down my fingerprints from where it wasn't quite dry. In fact, let's move up the camera to get a better view of the whole process. Finding the best place to hold it from is an interesting one. That's looking much smoother, as you can see. Now, got to do the same on the other side, because this is also just as wibbly wobbly. So again, we'll make sure we're not accidentally grabbing something we shouldn't be. We'll sand this bit down. Now, it's obviously taking quite a lot of the paint and a lot of the plastic off because we're using quite a high grit. If we were to use something like an 800 or 600, probably be a lot better. A lot smoother anyway, but we'll go back and we'll smooth it out afterwards, obviously. Maybe a bit too soon to do this. I don't know how quickly the putty dries, but I'm sure it's all right. Just got to be very, very careful not to knock off something that we've already done, obviously. 400 I find is a really good grit for this because it's enough to take off some of the additional plastic, but not enough to make it too rough. And that's the kind of bit we want, really. Make sure that that's nice and straight. Yep, that's nice and smooth. So now coming back over to this side, we can see that this bit is not very smooth. So let's get that nice and smoothed out. And this bit's not very smooth, so we're going around there. I think I've actually missed a few bits around here, so just go in and smooth that bit out as well. Not the smoothest up here either. Or around here. And then at the back as well, you can see that the smoothing hasn't gone as nearly as well as we were hoping it would. So what we'll do is we'll just go back in over here as well. Again, we're using a slightly higher grit this time, so we may be able to just get that a bit smoother. But ultimately, it is the glue. It's the glue that we're taking off here, and obviously the paint. The paint is just there to show us where the highlight the bits that need sanding. We've got a bit here to come off as well. Bit around here. Don't know how we're going to get this bit off. To be honest with you, so we're going to try and use this. We're coming nice and tight to this bit as well, because this bit's not the smoothest. That's looking quite a lot better all round. Cool. So we'll get rid of the 400. We'll go up to the highest grit that we have on the actual sand paper, rather than the sanding sticks. P18600, P1500. Right, so we have a nice 1500 that we can use just to sand out and smooth out some of this stuff. Okay, especially around here. Again, the idea here is just to hide some of the bits, especially the gluing. Just smooth everything out of it. Again, this is supposed to be a boat, and the smooth. Oh, okay. The screw's not quite set there, so we have to be very careful. It is supposed to be a boat, so it needs to be very, very smooth. Just ensure that's on there properly. And we might actually want to just ensure that that's nice and stuck before we do anything more. If we do any more sanding and that comes off, then we have to re-glue that. So let's sand a different area for now, like this bit. That's feeling nice and smooth now. And we'll smooth that around here as well. Especially this bit here. That's looking 100 times better already. I'm still not very happy with how smooth this is, so I might actually just try and go over it. If I have to re-glue it, I have to re-glue it. So we're going at it with, I think, a 400. So we don't want to take too much off, but we kind of messed up and we put way too much glue over it. This is probably where we're going to want to stick now. We'll go, so it's a nice 1600. I would start off with a 400, I guess. Then we'll move up to a, what was that? That was a 400. Let's move up to a 600. Then we'll go to a, no, that's a 12,000. I don't want a 12,000. I need the 1600, which is 1800, this one. I think we'll just re-glue it at this point. we kind of want this to be as smooth as possible, so that's the priority. Right, okay, well, now we've taken it off, we can actually really go ham and really sand this down. There should be no excuse that this isn't sanded. That's 1500. Let's go back down to 400, I think. Right, then we'll go back up to a 1500 just to finalize that smoothness. Where's our 1800? This will probably be better, just to go up and down on. Again, we don't want to take too much of the plastic off. We still want it to be the right shape, but we do need it to be ultra smooth. And it's easier to do it like this than it is afterwards. Much better. And now we'll go over to the 12,000, sorry, the 4,000, just to really smooth this out. I do apologize, it's making the table shake quite a lot. Really make this nice and smooth. Very nice, very smooth. Now we'll be a bit more careful applying the cement here, because we don't want to have to re-sand all of this down. We do want a nice even coating. So when we apply this, it sticks and does not need any additional sanding. It will still require a little bit, obviously, but the idea is that it should go on nice and smoothly. We can actually just use this paintbrush to smooth that all out a bit. What I'm actually going to do is I'm going to push this in nice and hard for a little bit, and just ensure that this settles in really smoothly. I'm using the paintbrush just to really make sure that that is nice and solid and centered. We will have to sand it. I can feel it already. I can see it. We're just going to let that sit for a bit. We need to let that dry. If you're just tuning in, welcome. Just taking a small drinking break while we wait for that to glue and settle in. We're building a Type 054 FFG PLA Navy destroyer. I think it's destroyer, it's a frigate. This is my first ever warship build. As you can see, we've already painted it once. Forgot a bit and had to sand it down. Now let's get back to the P400. And what we're going to do is we're just going to gently massage in and sand this bit here, like this. Make sure that's nice and smooth. Maybe up at the top here as well, like so. That's feeling nice and smooth. Cool, we can now move on to everybody's favorite stage, which is painting. We can once again spray it all down. It should be nice and smooth enough and ready enough to be painted. So we'll just move everything out of the way. We'll bring the painting board back over. We'll raise up the camera. We shall place the warship in the center, and then we'll get our paint ready. Hopefully. We get a bit more of an even colour this time, so we don't have to do any more sanding. Now obviously there is now 2 layers of paints on some parts and 1 layer of paints on the other half that we do just need to be aware of and be a bit more careful with. Obviously when we come to final painting this grey, it will look a lot easier and a lot better and hopefully a bit more even. We'll just move this back here. We'll just spin this around so I have better access. Probably going to get paint everywhere, but it's okay. We'll go this side. I can actually see already that we still have a bit more sanding to do on the front and a little bit of putty to fill in as well. But again, that's okay. We know that this is going to be needed and we are just here to take our time. Maybe a little bit too much paint accruing here. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to gently slide some of this off, like so, and then just go back over that a little bit. Again, not too much. Maybe a bit too much. But that should hopefully settle. Again, this is my first ever warship. I don't expect it to be perfect. I will obviously do my best, but I don't expect it to be perfect. Yeah, obviously that's a bit too rough over there. This is probably where we need compressed air just to smooth it down a bit. There's a little bit of a running bit here. I don't know if I'm going to be able to show you. I might be able to move the camera down. You can see just here, there's a little bit of a run. I'm not sure how I can best cover that up, to be honest with you. Again, a light sand can probably do wonders. And remember, you know, we are obviously going to be painting it grey and red as per the painting guides. So the entire bottom bit will be red up until about the first half, and then it'll be going grey. And that's what we will eventually be working on. Whether we get to that on this stream or not, I'm not quite sure. We still have quite a lot of work to do and a lot of work to go. Yeah, this should be relatively, no, not quite dry yet. Yeah, I can see a bit of mist over here as well. Yeah. I should probably get a compressed air can as well, just to try and flush out some of that paint, it does collect in one place. But that's for another ship, another stream. We're not, yeah, like I said, this is my first stream, and it's, to be honest, my first model build, unless you count a 3D printed model for my computer case as a model build. We're just waiting for this to dry. We have actually already done some painting for the new people on the stream. We painted these lovely propellers in beautiful gold. Obviously we haven't attached these yet because we haven't finished painting this. So we'll look at the instruction booklet and we'll see where we're going next. By the looks of it, we're all done on the back. Obviously we haven't attached the propellers. We want to finish painting first. But we are basically finished on the first page. We've done steps 1 and 2. That's not a lot. That's not a lot considering how long we've been painting for. Or how long we've been building for. What we're going to do is we're going to gently try and slide this off. No, okay, we're not going to gently slide it off. What we're going to do is we're going to pick it up with some tweezers and bring it back. So already we can see a few massive mistakes we've made, and that is on here we've gone a bit too heavy on the paint. Here, definitely here and here, but we can sand that down. Again, this is just the priming layer. We want to prime because that makes the paint stick better, but that's not to say that we have to prime all the time. We just needed to massively prime on the front as we missed that bit in the beginning of it. When we go over to paint on the red, which is this red here, and when we go to paint on the silver, which is H308, which is the grey, which is 990, which is this one here, these will be much smoother because, and they'll go on a bit easier and stick better because we've primed it. But again, not all of it needs to be perfectly primed when we do that. So again, we'll just wait and hope that it dries quickly, because then we can sand it down and we can do the bit that you're all here for, and that's finalizing the paint on the bottom. Because once we have half a ship, well, we have half a ship, we can put it into dry dock and we can then sort out the rest. Obviously we have the gun on the top already, but we haven't got anywhere else. What we could probably do is flip this over in a minute. We could keep attaching stuff. I'm not necessarily opposed to that. I think maybe you want to paint all in one go. We're going to have to prime the top at some point. We don't want to get any paint on the lower bits, but that's why we have fog tape. Now, that should be, yeah, safe to touch. Safe to touch. So you can see here, oh, it's not quite dry. It's fine, we'll sand that bit out. You can see not quite perfect all the way along. I've still got a bit of sanding to do around here, unfortunately. I kind of expected that though. This bit's a much better. Yeah, still got some accidental finger marks. This will all need to be smoothed out at some point, because we will need to, obviously we'll need to paint, but we don't want finger marks in the paint for obvious reasons. You know, let's just join this with just a spray primer. You're gonna get runs, you're gonna get bits, and I don't know how long it takes to dry. I could probably check the pack actually. Didn't really say, I don't think. No, it doesn't say how long it takes to dry, so it's okay. Again, this is the first ship built. So now this should be nicely drying. We'll probably use a very low grit, I would say, maybe like a 1200, especially around here, just to get rid of those finger marks. and this will just smooth it out nicely. Might actually have to go a little bit higher. No, this is working. This is working. Looking nice and smooth. So that when we put the final layer of paint on, it should look really good. Yeah, that's feeling very nice and smooth now. Still a little tacky, but it's okay. Just gonna gently smooth over. The fact you can hear the sound shows that it's not very smooth yet. And that's what we're just doing here, we're just smoothing it out. Now obviously with regards to the front here, we're going to have to probably fill that in again and smooth that over. So we could probably do that now, to be honest, while we wait for the rest to dry, because it's still, as you can see, in some of the thicker parts, especially around here, it's still very, very wet. We're kind of rushing things a bit, and we should really slow down, enjoy the moment, enjoy the process. Just take our time. We're in no rush here. We're in no rush. And on this beautiful Saturday, which I hope you are all enjoying. So I'm just washing my hands, which I hope you're all enjoying. Yeah, we're here just to relax and enjoy ourselves. I'm not the most patient of some people though. So where is the putty? The putty is over here. We are using the Vallejo plastic putty. We're just going to move the ship over here. We're going to attach some more of this. I have already done this once, but we had to re-glue it, unfortunately. Let's get our special paintbrush for this out. Wherever it's gone over here. We'll move this over here, and then we'll gently, again, try not to make too much of a mess and upset too much of the paint. We'll just lift it up, tilt it to one side, and gently just fill that in. Again, trying to make sure it's very, very smooth and filled. Well, we will of course sand it again, but for now, let's just try and make it as smooth as possible, because we need to fill in that gap. This is a ship, and ships don't have gaps. They're all nice and smooth, so that they can go a bit faster. Remember, this is just putty. This isn't paint. It goes on like paint, but it isn't paint. So we need to be even more careful about making sure it's in the right places. So we'll press the ship on its canards. You can see I've not waited long enough for it to dry, and I've got fingerprints everywhere, which we will have to sand out. Yeah. Just like to take our time and do things 3 times, clearly. Just fill in all of these gaps. That's looking much better. Looking very rough, but again, that's what sandpaper is for. Just try and smooth it out as best as possible. Try and get it all going in one direction, which should make it a bit easier to sand, I hope. Again, not 100% sure. Still a bit of a gap there, so I'm just going to put one little drop more right here, like so, and just dab that in, and just dab that in. Cool, and we're just going to wash the paintbrush now, because it's getting a bit minging. Just let that dry. We'll let that dry. We obviously need to let this dry a bit more. It's feeling a lot drier, so we can start trying to sand this out. Make this nice and smooth. Might actually have to use a higher I'd say lower. It's supposed to be lower grip, but I say higher because it removes more. Oh yeah, big amount there that needs to come off. So we will actually use not a 12,000, maybe an 1800. Do we have an 1800? Yes, we do. We have a nice 1800 here. It's upside down as always. Oh, that bit really isn't dry. Just wipe that off with that finger. Completely messed up that bit. That bit hasn't dried at all. Has not dried at all. We applied way too much at the front there. Okay. When painting, be very, very careful, clearly. Don't apply too much. Do it very gently, very slowly. Again, patience is not one of my virtues, but it's something I'm learning in this project. And this is quite a big project, you know. This is not something I've ever done before. And I'm here to learn. And I feel like I'm learning quite a lot. You right, sweetie? Did you want to order some food? I don't mind. What do you want? What are you in the mood for? Right, let's get back to sanding. We'll go back to this fingerprint here, because this one should be dry. We might actually be better off calling it a day here to allow this all to properly dry. Because I feel like we are just kind of maybe not doing this in the best way. Where we're rushing it before it's dry, it's not quite settling in properly. But we can sand off these extra additional. We'll move the gun turret away so we don't accidentally knock it off. We can sand out these fingerprints. That's why we have sandpaper. I'm actually going to go a little bit higher this time. I'm thinking more of 1,000. Do I have 1,000 anywhere? I've got a 1,500. Oh, 3,200. That's going higher. I'm going to be going lower. I've got an 800. 1,000 there. That's what we're looking for. We're looking for this 1,000. And that should just help us smooth it out a bit better. Especially around these fingerprints. Up here, take that extra bit off. That's feeling really good now. Feeling much smoother. You can still see the fingerprint, and I have a feeling when we paint it, you're still going to be able to see it. And I'm worried about that, but I have a feeling that that's future lunar problem. But it does actually feel quite smooth, so I don't know. Let's go back to 1,800. Just to doubly smooth that out. That feels quite good. We'll do a 4,000 on the back here. Now let's smooth this out with 1,000. You can see this has taken off quite a lot, maybe a bit too much. We should probably go back to the 1,800. Just gently smooth this out. Like so. What we're going to probably do here is we're going to go up to a 1,500 grit sandpaper rather than a sanding stick. This might just allow us to get more into the grooves here. You can see that it's just allowing us to really fit the form and the angles. I'm trying to be very careful not to accidentally knock anything off. Really get into that groove and sand out any extras that we don't want, especially around that putty area, because we have put putty here now. Yeah, that's feeling ultra smooth there. So let's do this side here. Make that really nice. Again, if you're just tuning in, welcome to the stream. It's good to have you on this Saturday evening. Really make sure this is nice and smooth. Nice and smooth. Wow, that's super smooth. Right, let's smooth this bit up here. Yep, let's smooth out this fingerprint. Super smooth. Feel that. Well, you guys can't feel it, but I can. And I can feel that that's very smooth. Just going to do a bit more around here. Yep, that's feeling much better. So I think we are actually ready to do the painting. It's still a bit rough here. I'm just going to smooth that out a bit more. Yeah, might need to take off some extra paint. We use 1000 grit for this. Especially up here, look at that. It's feeling much better. I'll just take a bit more off here. It's feeling super smooth. I'll just put another thumbprint in there. Right, so now we can get onto the foggy tape. We're going to use fog tape for this bit. We'll get the painting guide up, put the instruction manual away, because now we need to do the most important bit of making sure that this is correct. So based on the painting guide, it needs to be just above the holes. The red. So you can see here we've just covered up the holes, and ideally we need to cover them up because on the painting guide that's what it says. Now whether or not that works like that, I don't know. Let's bring the painting guide over so we can show you. We can see gently here if it focuses. Yep, you can see here the red paint is just below the hole. There's not really much else to work from other than this, so we're just got to hope that we do it correctly. So now we're going to go to this side. We're going to try to make sure that this is straight. And my hands are a bit shaky for this, so maybe not the best time to be doing this. That looks pretty straight to me. Now it doesn't look like the paint goes up at any point. It is purely a straight line. So we've got to keep this line straight throughout. That's obviously going to be quite tricky to do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the other side and try and do the same thing. Very hard to balance it because obviously it's all rounded. You know, ships don't have many flat sides. We're just going to go underneath here. Just going to try and get it straight first, and then we'll sort it out. Yep, that's looking good. few gaps and bubbles, so maybe this isn't quite as straight as I was thinking it was. There, that's much better. Like that. Just make sure that's all smooth. We don't want any bleed over, remember that. We don't want any bleed. I'm a bit concerned because the painting guide doesn't have a picture of the back. So I've got to just assume that it goes straight on the back as well. Again, I'd be surprised if it didn't. I do just have to be ultra careful. Do you want to walk to the shops?
Yeah, sure.
Tesco's. What do you want to eat? Are you hungry?
Oh, yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, I'm quite hungry. Let me just finish putting the tape on. Because what we're going to do is we're going to do the very typical, just about get to the good bit. And then we're going to end the stream, so you come back to the next stream. This feels like it's a little bit low. This should... Ah, I see. We have actually made a mistake here. This needs to be in line. So what we'll do is we'll take this bit off. This bit should be under the tape there. Again, it's all going to look like a straight line, but actually it's not very straight because these lines don't match up with this line. So I mean, we'll just keep applying tape until it looks perfectly straight. But yes, we'll be painting this in the next stream. Yeah, we are on a 3-hour stream already, and that's obviously quite a long time. My back's starting to ache because this is obviously a lot of leaning forward and a lot of paying attention. Well, you can see there now, that looks like one bigger straight line. Still doesn't quite look right, to be honest with you. But I don't really know how else to do this. Again, there aren't very many painting guides on this in the instruction manual, so that should look... Oh, I just realized that's not in frame. That should look quite straight. Yeah, that looks pretty straight. It's not perfect. Again, we are going to have to be aware that this is not going to be the perfect first ever build, because this is my first ever model kit. It's not going to be perfect, but we can make it the best we can, because that's important, isn't it? It's making it the best we can. We've actually nailed it this time, I think, on this side. We've absolutely nailed that. Centered it perfectly. I would just attach maybe a little bit just to smooth it out, a tiny little bit. But mostly, we have centered that. What we're going to do is we're just going to very, very slightly just angle that out a bit, like so. And you can see that that's that. So that's looking very, very good. I mean, we still have a bit of a smoothing to do, but that is looking practically ready to be painted. But for those of you that have just been here for the painting, you're going to have to wait, and that will have to happen next stream. I need to go have something to eat. We've been streaming for 3 hours and I need a little break. But I hope you guys have enjoyed this journey. We've done quite a lot. I know it doesn't look like it, but we have a moving gun turret. You know, we've attached the canards and the propellers, and we've painted the propellers, and we've primed and sanded the hull. And that's quite a lot for a first stream. I've just noticed, however, that there's a small tiny little gap. That might just be sandpaper. But I hope you guys have enjoyed, and we look forward to seeing you on the next stream. And hopefully you can continue being with us on this journey of building the Type 54 PLA Navy Type 54A FFG ship. on that note, thank you for watching, and yes, we will see you in the next one. That's a goodbye from Luna. Bye.